The Trans Siberian Orchestra is one of the most successful bands on the planet. In 2014, founding member and friend Paul ONeill returned to the Marc Berman Show. This is that interview. Sadly, we lost Paul ONeill in 2017. He was one of the nicest, most genuine people on the planet. I miss him dearly, and this is my interview with him from 2014.
The Trans Siberian Orchestra celebrated its 15th year of live shows last year and has consistently ranked in the top 10 for yearly gross revenues and attendance. That is according to the industry trade leader, Polestar. The group has played more than 1,600 shows for more than 11 million fans, and in the process, cemented itself as one of the world's biggest arena rock acts. With sales of more than 10 million CDs to date, the Trans Siberian Orchestra continues to rock your senses with an audio and visual spectacle that is second to none globally. The website, trans-siberian.com, for tour dates and everything TSO. Producer, writer, guitarist Paul ONeill started TSO Trans Siberian Orchestra in 1996 and brought smiles and amazement to millions. Now, Paul ONeill returns to the Marc Berman Show. Please welcome an incredible artist and friend, Paul ONeill. Paul, how you doing?
Doing great, Mark. Great to hear your voice. Can't believe another year's flown by, and we're to year 16, and, we were just in full rehearsal last night. The band's chomping at the bit. Because I'm just sure Mark, it's fun to write them, it's fun to record them, it's fun to watch them go platinum, but it's, not real till you perform in front of a live audience, and you feel the energy from the audience, which, of course, the band absorbs from the flight deck, and, it helps them to take the music to another level. And, you hear a great solo on a DVD or on your stereo, it's cool, but if you're in an arena, you pick up the energy of the guy in front of you, to the left of you, to the right of you, behind you, and also these days, since every generation, unless you're in your 90s, have rock in common, it's really cool when you watch a father and his 15-year-old kid, rocking out to the same guitar solo, and Mark, it has definitely been a crazy year. I don't know if we got to touch bases on it last year, but at the last second, we got a call from Berlin, Germany, who asked us if we would help them bring in the New Year by playing the Brandenburg Gate. And our agent was like, Paul, you got 2 shows the night before. You got the Atlantic Ocean in between you and the next show. You're flying against the clock. You're going to have to turn this down. You can do it another year. I'm like, but what if they don't ask me another year? I'm like, they're talking like 900,000 to 1 million people. I said, I've got a chance at it. So, we did the 2 shows. We had the jets waiting on the tarmac and took off. Thank God the weather was perfect, and we were actually able to finish sound check with an hour to spare. But then, Brandenburg Gate started to fill up, and as midnight approached, we're getting ready to hit the stage, and the German stage manager comes over and goes, Paul, you're not going to believe this. We figured we'd max out at about 1.1 million. We just crossed the 2 million mark. And I'm like, really? And it's, when we, hit the flight deck and we just looked out and it was just people as far as the eye could see. It was very dreamlike, very surreal, and definitely a high point, in my life. And it's, and a great way to kick off the European tour, which went phenomenally. And, then we came back and dove into the studio because we have to deliver the new album to MCA in June, because in July we have to head over to Wacken, which is the biggest rock festival in Germany every year, and then get ready.
But I think this New Year's Eve thing, I think you broke records of all-time records of viewers on TV or something, like 8 million views of this show. It definitely,
broke a lot of records and set a really high bar. And there's I think it was only one other time we played New Year's Eve in Cleveland about 5 years ago, and we were the first band to sell out the Gund Arena on New Year's Eve, and we did the biggest indoor confetti drop in history, and like tons of it. I mean, you just couldn't see. and it was actually really funny because the next day the Cavaliers were playing, and you know how like when the team comes out, they set off a concussion mortar, just
sure.
And when it went off, it shook the beams, and the confetti from the night before started to flutter down. And the announcer goes, "Oh, this isn't TSO from the night before. This will be done in a second." And then it just keeps coming and coming. And Barry goes, "We're going to take a 5-minute break." and basically for 5 minutes, all the leftover confetti that they thought they had gotten, but was stuck in various, trussing, up above, fluttered down. So that was kind of cool. And it's been a wacky run, and it's just been great, though, just because, especially the last couple of years, because, you bump into young couples in their 30s with kids who said, we first saw you when we were teenagers in high school, and now they're back, 16 years later with their kids. And, hopefully 16 years later after that, they'll be back with their kids. And it gives me hope because, one day, Mark, you and I are going to be in the old Rockers home, and with the nurses going, we have to hear these stories again, and hopefully these kids will let us backstage, and we'll get out of the old folks' home for a couple of hours.
Just a reminder, this is my 2014 interview with Trans Siberian Orchestra founder and friend, the late Paul ONeill.
Hey, Paul. The Christmas Attic is your latest masterpiece, and it kicks off November 13th. What's the story behind this show, this Christmas Attic?
In this one, it's basically this child goes into this attic on Christmas Eve, and anyone who's been in an old house where they've been throwing stuff in the attic for decades, if not centuries, knows it's filled with all kinds of really cool treasures that people have forgotten about, and she discovers this old trunk that's filled with letters, from, the past. And while reading them, she goes on various adventures and sees how people, how Christmas has affected, people's lives over the centuries. And through it is able to get a glimpse into the future. And, like all my stories, Mark, it has a happy ending. If you want a sad ending, you don't need me. Just read the newspapers. And it's...
boy, thank you so much. And we thank you for that. Thank you. Boy, do we need you now more than ever. That's true.
Oh, it's just so depressing with what's going on in the Middle East and, the Ukraine, God bless. But and then the second half is, hits from the other... holiday rock operas as well as the non-holiday ones like, Night Castle and Beethoven's Last Night.
Sure.
And it's, we just can't believe that it's, 16 years and still going strong and actually growing. And our biggest fear is simply that we just never want to let the fans down. And it's because, the bottom line, the other reason we exist, if it wasn't for them, again, we'd be pumping gas.
You have a huge fan base that spans every generation, and we know this.
And
yeah, we know this.
They've been unbelievably supportive, very kind, especially when we've been late with albums and stuff like that. And it's again, we're just unbelievably grateful for them. And it's as we always say, especially when the new kids join the band, the first thing we tell them is, fans own the band. The minute we forget that, is the minute we start to decline. It's we're here to make the best albums, and the best concerts possible, sparing no amount of time or expense, and then charge the lowest possible price. And and the minute you forget that you exist for the fans, I mean, that's the minute I think you start to decline as a band. I think the same is true for corporations and governments. It's just again, they allow us the opportunity to do what we love for a living, and we will be unbelievably grateful for that. And my mother, God bless her, who's passed away shortly, is grateful that her son is not starving to death. So, because when I told her I was going into music, she goes, "No, first you go to college, then you get a real job, then you can do your hobby."
Everybody, that's the story from every mom, isn't it?
Well, pretty much. It's.
I got a question.
Yes.
John, Robert, and Al are all out on tour with you. They're all rehearsing and everything. But how many more will you have on stage for this show when people come out and see you? I mean, you have your three basic guys. You got Petrelli there with that incredible guitar.
I honestly believe
what a guitar virtuoso.
He plays great classical, great rock, great blues. He sight reads, which I do not know any rock guitarist. I mean, the first time I worked with Al, I had the song, and in the middle I was going to Mozart's 25th Symphony, and I was getting ready to show Al the parts, and he goes, "Do you have the music?" I'm like, "Yeah, but it's in the wrong key." And I goes, "No problem, I'll transpose as I read." And I gave it to Al, and I mean, Mozart's 25th Symphony is difficult. Al sight read it, transposed it in his mind, and did it in one take, and that's the take that's on the album. And I'm like, "Want to be in a band?" He's like, "Okay." And it's been a great run ever since. And the other thing about Al, for people who don't know him, not only is he an unbelievably great guitar player, he's very generous. He the younger guitar players, he mentors, teaches them all the tricks of the trade. And as I always say, I hand Al guitar players, Al hands me back rock stars. And it's again, just a really classy guy.
We had him on last year. Would you do me a favor?
Sure.
When you see Petrelli tonight or tomorrow, if you remember, would you wish him a happy birthday next week? Because we share the same birthday.
I did not know you shared the same birthday, but I will 100% tell him that. And actually, I will be talking to him tonight, so he will get the message tonight.
You've made hundreds of TV appearances and the band, and you've performed on many shows. When stagehands and people see on the list that, we have TSO coming in, do they start shaking when they have to set up your set, just even for a TV appearance?
No, because over the years, our crew pretty much has stuck with us, and so we've gotten to know the local crews as they've gotten to know our crews, and they've become part of the family. And we're totally serious about it, because it's like, in TSO, it's not just the people on the flight deck, it's, the crew are considered band members. First one's in, last one's out. They have the hardest job. But, and I mean this seriously. I mean, it's also, the cleanup crews from the arena, because of people like that we're not slipping on beer or vomit from last night's hockey game. And it's
right.
The bottom line is it's everybody working together, and because individually we're all finite, we're limited, but everybody together, working towards one goal, there's nothing that we can't do. And it's which is it's the great thing about humanity. If they look at the big picture and work together. Again, I'll never forget when I was a kid and John Kennedy said, we're going to put a man on the moon and have him back by the end of the decade, and then we did it. And
right.
That kind of optimism that came out of the 50s and the early 60s. I believe that we can get back to that. And it's we're definitely going through some bumpy times now, but as humanity, we always seem to do that. And
that's true.
And but then we always pull our act together, and we have to do it. It's
that's true.
No other reason, just because we all have kids, and our parents definitely gave us a better world than they inherited. Because God bless my dad. Fought World War II, normally to Berlin. Stopped Hitler. Stopped Tojo, and beat the Great Depression, and allowed us all, to go to sleep at night, never worrying about if we're going to have food or some foreign country was going to invade us. And I think we have a duty to deliver a better world to the next generation. I'll never forget, once I was in Burma, and there was a memorial to the British and American troops that had died there, and it was very simple. Very poignant. It said, "We gave up our tomorrows so you could have your todays." And it makes me so angry at some of these, embezzlers that messed up on Wall Street. They basically, sold our kids tomorrow so they could, have extra zeros in their bank accounts. And it's like greed without purpose. I mean, if you were 18 and I gave you $1 billion and said, spend like a drunken sailor, you couldn't spend it in your lifetime. And it's, I remember my grandmother saying, Paul, money's important, but what's more important is how you get it and then what you do with it. I'm like, okay, Grandma, when you be cutting your hair? I'm like, I don't know, Grandma. It's, she was just this great, wise old Irish woman.
I only have a couple seconds left with you. I got to ask you, Greg Hildebrand, still with you?
Oh, absolutely. Just saw Greg yesterday.
Is he the best?
I love him. He is the artwork for the new, tour programs, unbelievable. And I'm just in awe of that guy. It's again, he's like something that has escaped from Oz, and we're just lucky to have him with us. And it's the funny thing is, I always worshipped him when I was growing up as a kid, and because between the original Star Wars poster, mainly because of all the Lord of the Rings illustrations, but then never thought that I would be lucky enough to have him as the band's artist. And it's he'll listen to a song, and then it's kind of like he's in my head. He just gets it, and he just does these illustrations that just put you there. And God willing, Greg will be with us for many, many years to come.
Just a reminder, this is my 2014 interview with Trans Siberian Orchestra founder and friend, the late Paul ONeill.
I got about a minute left. Paul ONeill, you're between November 13th and January 4th. I think you got 12 days off. But you're off Christmas Day. Where will you spend that?
100% at home. And no matter where we are, we always got to get home because, I was 16 and, I can't believe it's just like how time flies. And I was never aware of time going by until I had my daughter, and and I'm like, wow, when did she become 16? Where was I? I mean, I blinked, and I still look at her, I just see this little baby, and and I only have the one, and my parents, God bless my dad, how he raised 10 kids for my mom blows my mind. It's the older I get, the more in awe of him I am. And again, one of my favorite things was, I was the second oldest, but I'll never forget. We're all sitting down to dinner once, and my mom goes, "We got 10 of you. We could lose 2, and we're perfectly fine." We're all like, "They mean you. They mean you." And but Irish Catholic, it was just a great way to grow up.
Paul ONeill, I have to say that you are just, as a human being, you're caring, you're warm, you're friendly, and what you have as your soul that comes out in your music and your performances. And when people go to a TSO performance, it's not just a band, it's a spectacle. And you bring it. And you know what? I'm just so honored to have you as a friend and know you and what you bring to the world. You're just a great guy, and I appreciate that you spent a few minutes with us again on the Marc Berman Show.
No, Mark, it's been totally our pleasure. You've always, like, I'm going to have to get rid of my publicist and hire you. It's like, it's, again, you're a prince and a gentleman, and again, you got to come backstage. We could have dinner and talk music, politics, life, and we'll just order extra ribeyes.
Yeah, we did that 2 years ago here in Atlantic City. For my audience, he's got to go because he's got more people to talk to. I want to talk to you off air for a second. Paul ONeill, hold the line. I want to talk to you off air.
Hi, this is Paul ONeill from the Trans Siberian Orchestra, and you are listening to the Marc Berman Show. Don't touch the dial.
The Marc Berman Show is always on. Go to marcberman.com for our podcasts of our past shows and interviews.